أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Today we will be addressing an argument that the Sunni defense and Twelver Shia love to make. One of the attacks that the Sunni defense levies on the Shias is that there was disagreement among the Shia on the matter of imamate. One of the evidences they cite for this claim comes from an article titled "The Imams were 7, not 12. In this article, they cite 40 narrations from a book titled Fi Nusrat al-Waqifa, which are reconstructed from Sheikh Tusi's Kitab al-Ghaiba. Fi Nusrat al-Waqifa is a book lost to history, just as were the followers of Waqifism. So the author of the article cited the singular modern follower of Waqifism in an attempt to undermine the Shia Hadith history and Shia Hadith corpus. There are fundamentally three problems with this approach. First, and most obviously, is that it overlooks the idea that Waqifism, for all intents and purposes, has been extinct for about 1,000 years now. Ayatollah Hussein Modarresi, in his book Crisis and Consolidation, acknowledges that the Shia split after almost every Imam following Imam Jafar. However, he clearly outlines that the group breaking off had always remained in the minority. Waqifism became popular in an interim period, yet he clearly mentions that the majority of the Imami community, despite an initial identity crisis, ended up accepting Imam Ali al-Ridha alayhi salam. Granted, Waqifism stayed alive until the 1100s, but it still remained a splinter movement away from mainstream Imamism. It is not, as the Sunni defense wishes to paint it, that the Imamis had a major identity crisis and that the Twelver sect miraculously survived therefrom. Modarresi cites a number of mostly Imami sources to support the idea that Waqifism was a strong minority and remained as such. But he even cites one Sunni scholar, Fakhruddin al-Razi, in his book Al-Muhassal, known in English as the Harvest/Compendium of the Thought of the Ancients and Moderns. If it is as the Sunni defense says, wouldn't Fakhruddin al-Razi, a Sunni polemicist, be interested in such a split to attempt to use it as a proof against Twelvers? It is not as the Sunni defense says. Modarresi cites Fakhruddin al-Razi acknowledging that the Waqifis were a minority and that the Qat'is won out. Clearly, the splits in the Imami community, owing to their abject minority status, are not significant enough to be used as an argument against Twelverism. Second, where this argument fails is that it is too broad and it is too low level. The basic structure of their argument, though they may not say it as such, is as follows. Number one, there is a disagreement among Twelvers on the basics of their sect. Number two, disagreement means that the whole ideology in question is false. Number three, therefore, Twelverism is false. So now, let's apply this logic, let's apply this reasoning to other places to see how it holds up. Let's take another example. 1. Scientists disagree as to whether CFCs or carbon create a greater contribution to global warming. Scientists are disagreeing on the basics of global warming. Number 3, therefore global warming is false. Okay, sure, let's take another example. Number 1, Sunni scholars disagree as to whether Allah has hands. Number 2, Sunnis are disagreeing on the basics of Allah's essence and Tawheed. Number 3, therefore all of Sunni theology is false. Clearly, this level of argumentation is not to be taken seriously. Here, in an attempt to show contradictions, they commit the error of confusing the disagreement of particulars for the falsity of the generality, meaning that just because the details have been disputed, it does not imply that the whole idea is moot. It does not imply that the base is wrong. Moreover, it should be a point of curiosity for the viewer that the idea of Imamism even exists in the first place. If one studies this debate of Waqifism intently enough, the most curious point is that troves of Shias were sending thousands and thousands of dirhams to Imam Ja'far's son in the name of doing their duty to the Imam. and that the Waqifis and the Qat'is debated over where this khums money was supposed to go. Does the Sunni defense wish to say that the son of Imam Jafar, who, mind you, is considered a reliable Sunni narrator, was a cheating, stealing liar who falsely called himself an Imam and usurped taxes from his fake followers? Clearly, the debate itself, if looked into, strengthens the Shia position. And final weakness of their claim is that they didn't realize that by citing a reconstruction of a source from Al-Ghaiba, a book whose very purpose is to refute the Waqifi position, that perhaps there would be valid counter-arguments against these 7 reports. 12 Shia fails to report the context and surrounding arguments that Sheikh Tusi cites. The following reports and arguments from Sheikh Tusi have been taken from his book Al-Ghaiba, from which Fi Nusrat al-Waqifa has been reconstructed by the author. Sheikh Tusi says, "As for that which the Waqifiyya have narrated, all of them are solitary reports, and no evidence or reasoning strengthens them, and it is impossible to consider them authentic. Their narrators have also been targets of ridicule, and they were unreliable, and it is not possible to trust their statements and reports." With all of these explanations, all their reports can be justified and interpreted in other ways. We will quote some of them from Fi Nusrat al-Waqifa, and then the reports are cited in the article by 12 Shia. First of all, if we ignore the fact that 12 Shia is using reports inauthentic by our standards against us, we can still see that they have cited these reports without the context Sheikh Tusi provides. Let's take a look at some of these arguments that he brings forth for some of these narrations. First of all, some of the reports to prove that there are only 7 Imams are just downright silly or irrelevant. Case in point, one narration says, "When Abdul Saleh Imam Musa al-Kadhim was in prison, he summoned me and said, 'Go to that man Yahya bin Khalid Barmaki.' And he says, 'So-and-so says, what is the reason that you should do this? You have made me homeless and separated me from my family and children.' I went to Yahya and informed him of this. Yahya explained, 'Zubaydah is being divorced.' He swore many times and said, 'I wish to pay 2 million dirhams as ransom and free you.' I returned to the Imam and mentioned the matter, and he said, 'Go and tell him. So-and-so says, by God, you will definitely release me, or I would leave of my own accord.' Sheikh Tusi replies, 'I don't know what is concluded from this report, or how it proves that the Imam Musa al-Kadhim is Qa'il bil-Amr. This report only mentions that if you don't release me, I would leave on my own, and this matter is being mentioned under oath, such that if Yahya would not do it, the Imam would do that himself, but he did not. Hence, when Yahya did not release him, he should have come out on his own, which did not happen, and it was a violation of oath. Due to this, we cannot rely on this report.' Obviously, any rational person who decides not to just look at the title of the article and decides to read into these hadith will realize that some of these hadith don't prove anything. One of the more definitive proofs that is provided from these 40 hadith is the hadith where the Qa'im is attributed to the son of Hamida. We will quote the hadith and then Tusi's response. "I heard a man from Azrat, aged more than 120 years. I heard from Imam Ali, the pulpit of Kufa, as if I can see the son of Hamida, that he has filled the earth with justice and equality, like it had been fraught with injustice and oppression. I arose and asked, 'Is he from your descendants or from someone else?' The Imam said, 'No, he is from my progeny.' Tusi responds to this hadith by saying, 'Yes, the master of the affair is from the descendants of Hamida. The mother of Imam Musa al-Kadhim, and is, as is mentioned, the master of the age, is from the descendants of Fatima. And in this report, there is no evidence that he is the direct son of Hamida, because attributing him as the lady Zahra's son is the same as attributing him as Hamida's son. And that which Imam Ali said, 'He is from me,' does not imply that he should be from his loins. And the fact that he is from the progeny of Amir al-Mu'mineen is sufficient." Now, one may point to this ta'wil and criticize it for being far-fetched. The two ta'wils Tusi provided for these 2 hadith read as if Tusi himself believes in these hadith, and that he's simply grasping at straws to reconcile them with his belief. However, this is not actually the case. First of all, Tusi disqualifies these hadith outright on the basis of their narrators being weak, and also because each of them are solitary reports. So in this regard, he already establishes that he doesn't buy into these hadith, and that they are weak by isnad, and that he simply is entertaining them for the sake of argument. Second, this is actually a common tactic Tusi prefers to use, and it's outlined in this screenshot I'm going to post of an article from the website Shiitic Studies. The link will be provided below. Here's a picture of Sheikh Tusi's methods when arguing a hadith. Tusi's preference when arguing and reconciling between hadith is not to attack the isnad, no, but rather to reconcile and reinterpret the matan in line with what is mashhur and accepted with the 12er conditions and standards. In this case, the 12er position was far more famous, obviously because Imam al-Ridha laid claim to the imamat by mutawatir standards, and the imamis naturally followed. So if 12er Shia would like to respond to Tusi's claims, they must prove that the hadith is authentically attributed to the imam by universally acceptable standards. And by this point, they would have gone in a circle, because then they would have admitted that the descendants of the Prophet did in fact lay claim to some sort of imamat. Secondly, though, even after proving by universally acceptable standards, then 12er Shia must disprove the claims of Sheikh Tusi in ta'weeling the reports. In conclusion, the Sunni defense needs to stop citing the Imami disputes over succession as a way of misguiding our Shia youth. We have demonstrated on 3 levels why this argument fails, and even to a degree helps our case. It is up to them to either admit falsity owing to ignorance on their part, or dishonesty on their part after this rebuttal. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.